Hey guys, Poro here with my last pre-Worlds 2025 video. Definitely a little bit tired, especially with the run that I've been doing for the past 2 days or so with all of the player and team rankings, but we finally made it. It's the last Worlds 2025 video before the tournament actually starts, which means that for all of my hard work, I will be awarded with 3 hours off. We get 3 hours off, and then I go to sleep, and then I wake up, and World starts, and then we're back on the grind again. So let's go. If I wanted more time off, I should have worked harder. Five head. Anyways, this last video will be my draft breakdown. So before I get into this, I do want to clarify some things. I am no League of Legends expert. I have zero competitive experience on an actual team. I have never coached. I have never been an analyst. I have never scouted, nothing like that. I'm just somebody who watches a lot of League of Legends, way more than I probably should. I'm just somebody who is a huge fan. So take what I say in this video with a grain of salt. I mean, like, take everything I say in all my videos with a grain of salt, but especially this one. And also another thing that I want to say is before we get into this video, if you look at this tier list and you're like, what are these champions? Why are these here? This makes no sense. Okay, listen, this is not my champion tier list for Worlds 2025. All right, let me just get that out of the way. This is not my champion tier list for Worlds 2025. What this is the tier list that I would put up on my second monitor while co-streaming games in LCP regular season. So that way I could keep track of what champions are up that are still playable that could be used in Fearless as series went on. So I used this as kind of like my guide. It was a very roughly put together tier list. I put it together in like 10 minutes of what I thought the general prios were for, I believe this was patch, it was either 2516 or 2517 or a combination of both. It was one of those. I just kind of threw together what I thought like generally might be pretty strong, what might like be like playable but weaker, some flex picks we might see, some rare stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use this tier list as a baseline, and then what we're gonna do is that I'm going to go through patch 25.18, 25.19, and 20.20 or 25.20. Those are the three patches that got released before Worlds. We're gonna read through all of the changes. And what's going to happen is that based on what I read, I'm going to move these picks up and down, remove some picks from the list, maybe add some picks to the list, stuff like that. And we are going to create a general tier list of what I think we might be able to expect the draft read to look like at Worlds 2025. So, yeah, like for example, off the top of my head, I thought that Kiana, Pantheon, and Wukong were really strong junglers, but all three of them are getting nerfed. Azir got hit with double nerfs, like Syndra and LeBlanc, both of which I have in the rare tier down here. They both got pretty substantial buffs, so we might see them more. Like Varus got nerfed since I made this list. Yunara got a big nerf in 2518. Sivir and Corki both got nerfed, so we're going to see a lot of changes there, stuff like that. When I made this tier list, this is also with LCP in mind, so LCP doesn't necessarily have the same great Bard players or Karma players that other regions have, so this is mostly like maybe now with the hindsight of finals, I might move like Bard up or something, So let's get right into it. I'm not gonna fool around with any of this yet, but we will change it in between each patch. So first off, mid patch updates. Yunara, they nerfed her so badly that they gave her a hotfix buff. So they buffed her health a little bit and her attack damage a little bit. We'll go over her nerfs later. So first change, Amumu, Q cooldown and mana cost decreased. So Q cooldown decreased by 0.5 seconds once you get to rank 2, and then down by 2 seconds at rank 5. Mana cost for the Q has been stabilized, but it is up by 5 at rank 1. So for Amumu, I think we will never see him in jungle. I would be very surprised if a jungler tries to pick Amumu at this tournament. I'm pretty sure the last time that we saw Amumu be played was like when Spica was on FlyQuest. I remember him locking in some Amumu jungle. Whenever Amumu gets changed, the thing I'm looking for is, can he be played support? I think that Amumu is much closer to pro viability as a support than he is as a jungler. And in terms of support Amumu, I don't think this is changing anything. His Q at rank 1 is staying the same cooldown, and supports, obviously, their levels get a little bit lower. When Amumu was at his best, the reason why he could be picked was because he was a strong enough level 1 champion that he could kind of Q the enemy team once, match their engage, and then once the initial trade was done, he would have a second charge of Q and could like continue the engage, so people would use him to kind of be oppressive. So if his Q is not being buffed for level 1, I don't think it will impact anything. And in fact, his Q is being nerfed for level 1 because it's getting a mana cost increase of 5. So I do not expect to see a Mumu at this tournament in either jungle or support, unfortunately, because I think a Mumu support is super fun to watch in pro play. Annie, W damage decreased, our magic pen decreased. We have W down by 20 damage at rank 5, and then our magic pen down by 5% at rank 1. Okay, so Annie, this change will impact her slightly. So Annie is strongest, in my opinion, on Void Grubs fight and first 2 Dragon fights. I feel like that is when she excels, and then maybe even like Rift Herald fight too. I think that she loves to, as soon as she gets level 6, she loves to scrap it out early and really skirmish people in some 3v3s or 4v4s, stuff like that. So in that regard, this change down here, Magic Pen down by 5 early, might impact some stuff. Another thing to think about is that sometimes any players will rush Malignance. We've also seen any builds where people like to go Bloodletters second, so I think that lacking a little bit of Magic Pen on the R won't really matter that much because those items I just listed kind of come in with built-in Magic Pen, so she's kind of already going to have a sizable amount of Magic Pen no matter what you do. The W change, again, I don't think this impacts anything because you max Q first and then you max W second, and I think that by the time that you get to like levels 11 and 12 and you start putting some more points into W, it doesn't really matter as much. Like at that point, Annie is kind of just like an engage bot. She's just a stun bot at that point, so I don't expect this change to significantly impact Annie in any way. So wherever I have Annie, I'll just leave her there for now. Ashe. I've been hearing some amazing things about Ashe. I think that Ashe will be a very strong champion at this tournament. We'll go into the specifics later once we get into a bunch of these champions up here being nerfed, but essentially what's happening is that Ashe is getting a buff and then everything above her is getting a nerf. So a little bit of an AD growth buff here. What is this? 0.5, so that's 9 more AD at level 18, I think is what this means. So, a long sword of AD during late game, not going to be like a massive difference, but I mean, certainly going to help. I mean, like, to be honest, I think Ashe could be completely unchanged and she would still have high prio at this tournament just because everything else is getting nerfed. I'm not going to fool around with her for now, but by the end of this video, she will be much higher on my bot list, I believe. Aurora, passive damage adjusted. Let's see, base percent max health damage on the passive 2.5% to 1%. Percent max health damage AP ratio 2% per 100 AP to 2.7% per 100 AP. So it is a buff at when you have 200 AP, it is a buff and it's a nerf before then. So for pro play Aurora, this is probably just a pro nerf, right? Because her build is like Aurora players like to go like Rod into Bloodletters, or they like to go Leandries into Bloodletters, kind of like lower damage builds like that. So it takes her like 3 items to hit 200 AP in the first place. I could totally see this just being a nerf for her. Let me see. We're looking to take some power out of her pro specific. Okay, yeah. So that is what Riot said too. Yeah, I do view this as a slight pro nerf. Yeah, I would agree with that. So let me think. Yeah, I mean, I think Aurora will be weaker. I don't want to fool around with this stuff too much. I might, like, fool around with it a bunch once I'm done reading these patch notes. Azir has been at the top. Okay, attack speed growth down. I believe this is the first of 2 nerfs he's receiving, actually. I think Azir is getting 2 nerfs, so he's getting nerfed in a future patch as well. So let's see. Attack speed growth down by 0.5%. AP ratio on the W down by 5%. Okay, so Azir nerfs. And I do know about these, so we'll think about those later. Briar. Q damage down by 20 at max rank, damage type magic to physical. Okay, so this is a nerf. Well, it's a buff and a nerf. So it's a buff in the sense that Briar loves to go Black Cleaver. So, when you go an item that gives you built-in armor penetration, and her Q also has armor penetration, but when you go like an item like Black Cleaver and you have some armor penetration there, then maybe the Q is doing some more damage to some targets. Also, this will add another stack to the Cleaver, but that wasn't really ever a problem in the first place because her bleed would stack up Cleaver in like 0.1 seconds anyway. So, and then in the sense, it's also a nerf because now you have less split damage, so it is easier for enemy teams to itemize into you. Not really going to matter too much, I don't think. Blood Frenzy bug fix. Okay. Global Sound plays on cast, plays after cast. This is a pretty big buff, I think. Damage. 10% AP ratio buff with the 50% bonus AD ratio. Wait, what? Okay, so it has no AD scaling now. It's like just AP scaling. Okay, so that's like a slight nerf. and then range increased. Okay, this literally doesn't matter at all, I don't think. So, I mean, overall, I think that having the later cast sound is probably just a buff, but I don't think this will matter for pro play. I don't see Briar being picked in pro. Cassio base mana plus 50, base damage versus poisoned targets up by 12 at max rank. Okay, so this is a pretty big change. Okay, so we're talking like rank 2 up by 3 damage is pretty impactful in my opinion, because this is a spell that has like a 1 second cooldown. So, you know, we've seen in the past a champion like Kennen whose Q is on like a 5 second cooldown. His Q is a single target skill shot on like a 5 second cooldown. When that thing gets buffed by like a 5% AP ratio, it is a monster buff. Like it's a massive buff even then. Like, and that's like you get one item on Kennen, your Q is doing 5 more damage, like, and that is like breaking the game. So you give Cassio a change like this, where at rank 2 she just gets 3 more damage on a 1 second cooldown. I feel like that's pretty impactful. And then like as you get more points into it, 12 damage at rank 5 seems like a pretty disgusting change to me. So I like how they're labeling this as we're adding a small buff. This does not look like a small buff to me. I would expect Cassio to be very strong at this tournament. I think she's already going to be strong, but I would expect her to definitely be strong. Galio is currently one of the most dominant mid picks. AP ratio down by 5% on the passive, and then percent max health damage per tick down by 0.5. Okay, so I think that the passive change is not going to really do much because most pro Galios prefer to rush Hollow Radiance anyway. So for the first solid portion of the game, he's more so just relying on his magic resist ratios. This change might mean something, although the Q does have a decent base damage number on it as well. And most times without setup, people aren't standing in the tick. I don't think this will change him that much. I don't think this nerf will mean too much for Galio. Garen, E damage increased. So this could be important actually, because Jax is getting a big buff for Worlds, and Garen is a Jax counter. So if we end up seeing a world where Jax gets picked a lot and Cassante gets picked a lot, we might have a couple of people at this tournament who'd be willing to counterpick with a Garen. I could see Broken Blade doing it. I could see Blippo doing it. So definitely keep Garen in mind. Jax buffs plus Garen buffs equals maybe Garen counterpick angle. Play AP ratio on his passive up by 5%. WQ base bonus movement speed increased by 10%. Bonus movement speed ratio increased by 1% per 100. Okay, so they're just giving his WQ like a massive movement speed steroid. I mean, like his WQ is not like the most OP thing ever, but I mean, like these are some big numbers that I'm seeing for him. So what does this mean? At max rank, his Q is going to be, or his WQ is going to be speeding people up by like 50%. I could see that being impactful. EQ, AP ratio up, okay, AP ratio up by 5 across the board. These are good changes for Hui. I think that we might definitely see Hui at this tournament, because overall, across his kit for his full combo, he is receiving a 10% AP ratio buff. That is definitely the type of number that could matter. Hui was already right on the cusp of being playable, I think. Like, there's a few people at this tournament who have experimented with Hui across the year. The first player that comes to mind is Caps. I always think that Caps is a pretty good Hui, so I would not be surprised if we see some people trying to experiment with it, since the damage is slightly higher, and then you have this nice little utility buff as well. So maybe we'll see some play. Jace buffs. I'm surprised to see Jace buffs. I think that Jace is already a pretty strong champion. So let's see what we're looking at here. Damage up by 20 early. That is a good buff. That is a good buff, I think. I think that the people who enjoy playing Jace will enjoy that. He'll be locked in more. Yeah, not much else to say about that. So we got some Alawi changes. I know that Alawi, like, Riot did some crazy shit with Alawi. A lot of Alawi players are pretty mad. Let's see. Quality of life change. No longer spawns tentacles during summon or teleport. This is a good change. Her passive now waits till she's done teleporting. Okay, so that's nice. That will feel good. Target max health damage down. And then Test of Spirit Vessel duration up. Okay, so I know that, like, the main thing that people didn't like about Alawi were how the like tentacle passive worked on her E and her like the W interaction with her E. Or no, it was just her E. It was the fact that they changed it so that way the E only slams down once now, or something like that people didn't like. Either way, I don't think that we'll see Alawi in pro play. I would be surprised. Kiana nerfs, base AD down by 2, armor growth down by 0.2, so that is about, I don't know, 3 armor, 2 to 3 armor at any meaningful timer. Passive Royal Privilege bonus damage down by 5% AD. I don't know how this affects her clear, but I feel like she will still be playable. I would be surprised if this completely takes her out. I thought that in patch 25.17, Kiana was the strongest jungler on the patch, and that people just weren't picking her because she's difficult. It's hard to win with her, but I think that she was the strongest jungler on the patch. I don't think these changes will make her not strong. Like, she might not be top prio anymore, but I still think she will be strong. Passive damage to monsters down, okay. I mean, Silas jungle was rarely picked anyway. There were some people doing it in LCK playoffs, like Owner was doing it. His Toe played it a couple of times, but like it's not a champion that many people are trying. So, and this change is a pretty big change to his clear, I think. So I would not be surprised if Silas jungle completely drops out. Oh, Talia is getting nerfed. Oh, okay. I guess I'll make a note on that on my Pick'ems video, because I mentioned in my Pick'ems video that I thought that Talia would get picked a bunch because I didn't see her getting nerfed, but she did get nerfed. So yeah, maybe I'm still gonna keep Talia as my most picked champion on my Pick'ems, unless these changes are like disastrous. Anyways, let's see it. Mana cost down. Okay, that's a buff. Q2 mana cost down, that's a buff. Base damage down by 1 at rank 1, down by 5 at rank 5. Flat damage per rock to monsters 10 to 20. Okay, so this is like either net neutral or a buff, I think. Unraveled Earth, mana cost down. Like detonation base damage, same initially, but down by 20. Monster wait, hold up. Wait, this isn't even a nerf. Hold up. So this is like gonna slightly increase her jungle viability and then do basically fuck all nothing to her mid lane game. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna bother to make a comment on my Pick'ems video. This is a nothing change. I don't think we'll see Talia jungle. Maybe there will be some people who are willing to try it as a flex pick or something, but yeah, I don't think that affects her mid lane viability at all. I mean, like, there's a chance that taking away 5 damage from her Q could mean something, just because the Q is basically something you cast off cooldown. But, I mean, I think that's balanced out by the fact that her laning is going to be a little bit stronger now, so it's fine. Vel'Koz. Tectonic Disruption, cooldown down by 2 at all ranks. Okay. So this is really good for Vel'Koz because it's his combo starter. If you're not poking with him, if you're trying to, like, start a consistent combo, you start with E, and your combo is limited by how often you can cast E. So a change like this is really big because it means that he can cast his consistent full duration of spells more frequently. R damage stays the same at rank 1, but scaling increased. Okay, we might see some Vel'Koz. We might see some Vel'Koz at this tournament, because Vel'Koz, in theory, should play well into some of the control mages in the meta. He should play well into champions like Azir, Orianna. He should play well into Talia. Syndra's going to get buffed too, so he could play well into Syndra. We might see some Vel'Koz. I wouldn't be surprised. There have been times in the past where people like Chovy have tried out some Vel'Koz, so I would not be shocked. Volibear. Passive AP ratio decreased. Attack speed ratio 4% per 100 to 3% per 100. What build was Skewmont going? I don't remember what build Skewmont was going. Was he just going the regular Baus build with like... what is it? Cosmic Drive, I think. Yeah, Cosmic Drive into Flickered Blades. Because if that's the build that he's going, I don't think it'll matter that much. I would be surprised if this takes Volibear out of Skewmon's rotation. Yunara, base health down, although she got the hotfix buff. Base AD down, but she got the hotfix buff. Bonus movement speed, 50 to 70 down to 30 to 50. Movement speed duration stuck at 1.5 at all ranks. Yeah, this is a pretty fat nerf. Not much else to say there. I remember being really shocked that the LEC kept on picking her, because the LEC played their playoffs on 25.18, and after the patch went through, I mean, like, she got completely gutted, basically. So I thought that her prio would drop off a cliff, but LEC was still pretending like she was pick or ban, which was very weird to see. I don't think she's pick or ban. I think the LEC was just, like, making some shit up. Let's see. Now grants ghosting during ultimate, okay. And we got some item changes. All right, so again, this is for 25-17, so let me think about this. I mean, right off the bat, I want to move Varus down, just because he was already nerfed. We move Yunara down. Ashe would go up. This is not the patch that changed any of like the main champions yet, so I'm not going to move anything around there. What else do I want to change here? I don't know. I think that the Ezreal nerfs ended up hitting a little bit harder than I thought that they would. And we've seen Xayah prio go up. I don't know if I'm convinced that Xayah is... I mean, like, I guess maybe Xayah is, like, fine if you ban Ziggs or if Ziggs is out. I don't know, I'll throw her, like, here or something. I didn't see much in the way of support changes. Were there like any meaningful support changes? Well, let's fool around with support here. So I think that yeah, Nico, Bard, Alistar, Karma. I think that Rel is oh, well, maybe like we'll do like Rakan. Rakan's main issue is that it's hard to blind pick him if Nautilus is up. But Rakan is also like a very good answer into like Braum and Alistar and some other champions. Rel I think is pretty strong. I think that in terms of like full on engages, she is probably the strongest engager you can pick, like front to back engager. Although we saw some people experiment with counter picking her with stuff like Renata, and that was pretty successful. I think we've seen the rise of Bard a lot, so I'll move Bard up. Maybe I'll move Karma down a bit. Yeah, sure. This is all fine and dandy. I don't think the Galio change will matter. I'm going to leave Galio there. What changes? What did I say in this patch that I thought might... Okay, so first of all, do I have Volibear in here? No. I should at least humor Volibear enough to put him in the jungle list instead of the rare list. I know only one person is playing it, but whatever. I think Vel'Koz will be played. So where's Vel'Koz? We'll throw him up here for now. I'll move him around later. I think that Silas's jungle prio will drop off. So I'm down for leaving him only in the mid list. Kiana got a little bit of a nerf this patch, so I don't know, I'll stick her there behind Vi for now. The Jace buffs are nice. I think that the Jace buffs are going to be pretty sizable for him. Maybe I'll do like this or something. Oh, I also think that Ambessa's up here. Like, I would go maybe like Rumble Ambessa. Gwen got some nerfs, we'll move her down. So maybe something like this. I don't know, I've seen Renekton be a beast in some games lately. I think Hwei will rise in prio based on this patch, so I'll probably leave him around where he is right now. Cassio got some very massive busts. I will move Cassio up. Aurora got nerfed. Maybe we'll do like something like this. I thought the Akali's has been having a pretty good showing. I'll leave things like this for now. Garen, I want to add Garen because we know that the Jax buffs are coming. So I'll throw Garen at the back of top lane for now. Galio changes won't do anything. Nothing for Briar. Oh, Azir nerfs. Yeah, I think the Talia nerfs are pretty much a nothing burger. Same with the Annie nerfs. Don't think either of those will do anything. And then, yeah, nothing for Mumu either. Is there much else for this patch? Okay, so my 25-18 patch notes would therefore look something like this. Do I have Tristana in here? I need Tristana in here. Oh, I need Taric in here too. We need Taric, we need Vex, was shown to be playable. Zyra in jungle. Zyra should be in jungle. There are multiple people at this tournament who might be willing to play that. Am I stupid? Oh, here's Tristana. Okay, I'm gonna put Tristana straight up in the bot lane list because I think that she will become a good answer into Kai'Sa at this tournament. What else? Oh yeah, expect stuff like LeBlanc and Syndra to end up rising. And I do really think that I think that Vel'Koz thematically is good into these champions. So I'll slip Vel'Koz in here. We'll decide on that later. I think I will leave this be for now. So I guess this is what I would say for 25-18 is something along these lines. So let's move on to 25-19. Again, I'll go back through and I'll make bigger changes. You know, when all is said and done. Patch 25.19. Okay, Ahri, Spirit Rush, damage per hit, up by 15 at rank 1, and then up by 55. Wait, 55? 55 at rank 3. Okay, so that is at least 150 damage, realistically speaking. I could see that being like important. There are a lot of good Ahri players at this tournament, especially like Chovy is great at Ahri, Knight is great at Ahri, Dyer is great at Ahri. So wouldn't be surprised to see some Ahri action. You know, like Zeka, Ahri is a champion that Zeka's always been able to play. So let's toss Ahri up a bit for now. Brand, passive monster damage modifier, Pillar of Flame, up by 10%. Damage per hit up by 5%. Is this enough to bring Brand into the jungle? So Brand, there was some times when Brand was in the jungle. My main problem with saying that Brand is going to be viable in the jungle in pro play is that I feel like we have a lack of good AD mid laners right now. Like I think that right now for AD mid laners, you're looking at like Yone, Corki, and who's the third one I'm forgetting? Yone, Corki, Tristana. Those are the three. Oh, speaking of which, I guess I should move Tristana to flex pick. I don't think enough people have been picking Corki mid to put Corki in flex pick, but I would put Tristana in flex pick here. You either pick it as a counter to Kai'Sa or you pick it mid when you want to go an AP jungler. Speaking of AP junglers, I should, nah, I'm not going to add Lilia. I feel like we haven't seen enough Lilia to justify that. But yeah, anyways, I think that going AP junglers is tough because there is a lack of AD mid laners. So I don't know if I would be comfortable saying that I think that Brand will make it in. I wouldn't be shocked because we have seen patches in the past where Brand was a good jungler. We saw metas where it was like Brand Zyra meta, I think was one of the ones. Or it was either like Brand Karthus or Brand Zyra or something like that. We saw something like that, and then Brand got nerfed out, but maybe he'll come back. Caitlyn base AD up by 2. That's a pretty nice change for her. I think that heading into this Worlds, I think that we're going to see the return of some more lane-dominant 2v2s. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Ashe Renata, Ashe Seraphine, Caitlyn Elise, Caitlyn Lux, Caitlyn Morgana even, by the way. I could see Caitlyn Morgana coming back because Morgana got some nice changes. So yeah, I'll move Caitlyn's prio up. Why not? I feel like every time I see Caitlyn in late Fearless, she's clapping people. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I don't want to move her this high. I'll put her like there. Quirky change. Quirky damage down by 10 at all ranks, and then AD ratio down by 5%. So this is like you're missing like 10 to 20 damage. Or no, I guess more like 20 to 30 damage off of the Q. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a nerf. I mean, okay, personally, I actually always thought that Corki was a little bit overrated in the meta. I think that people pick him too much. So, you know, if he's going to get a small nerf, I'm down to knock him down a few pegs. Sure. I don't think this change is enough to completely kick him out, though. No changes to his R, no changes to his E, so... Oh, I probably should have... Hold on. My bad. I completely missed it. I need to look at items. I'm so stupid. I completely skipped over item changes. Balmy Cinder... Percent amp on monsters 50 to 100. Okay, so the rise of tank junglers. See, okay, this is why I didn't want to miss this stuff. All right, so Zac buff plus Balmy Cinder's change. Does this mean we might see Tarzan pick Zac? There is a chance we might see Tarzan pick Zac. I could see that. I'll throw it into rare for now. I would not be surprised. And then I think that yeah, this is a buff for tank junglers. So which junglers here build Balmies? Sejuani does. So we'll move Sejuani up a couple spots. Skarner will move up a couple spots maybe. I'm gonna throw Zed down a few spots. Any other Balmies junglers in here? Were there any junglers that built Balmies in the past that I'm missing? What tank junglers am I maybe not thinking about here? I don't think we'll see any Udyr. Like jungle, I mean. Don't think we'll see any tank Hecarim. Is that it for Balmies champion? Okay, I could have swore there were more junglers who would build Balmy Cinders. I have to be just like missing stuff. I don't think we're gonna see any Rammus, although Rammus doesn't rush Balmies normally anyway. Rammus is more of a Thornmail rusher. A Mumu is a Balmies rusher. Here's the cope angle. We have the Sunfire buff for a Mumu plus the change to his Q. Where it's a Mumu nation. A Mumu will be the strongest jungler at the tournament. But yeah, no, I'll just give a little bump to Skarner and Sejuani and call it a day for that. Merksim AD up by 10, magic resist down by 5. I don't think this changes anything for like any of the main champions. And that's it for items. Okay, not much items from 2518. Cool. Diana monster mod 2.6 to 3 times. Yup, this is now rivaling her monster damage ratio from whenever she was super strong. I could see her becoming a factor. Again, I think that AP junglers can struggle a little bit because of the lack of AD. Ooh, I wonder if this means the return of Yasuo. Where do I have Yasuo? Yasuo Diana. Maybe Yasuo Diana will be a thing. I'll wait on that. I'll think about it. Draven. Attack speed up by 10% at all ranks on W. Whirling Death damage up by 25 at all ranks. Okay. So, yeah, a level 6 buff and an early game buff since you get the 5% or the 10% on the W right away. I could see this pulling Draven back in. This is further solidifying my theory that we're gonna see more lane stompers because now we're seeing like Ashe, Caitlyn, and Draven are getting buffs, and then a lot of the stronger bot laners are getting nerfed. Wait, maybe Kai'Sa just like won't be played at this tournament at all. I mean, Kai'Sa will surely be played at this tournament, but maybe Kai'Sa should not be played at this tournament, you know? If we're seeing Ashe, like Ashe, Draven, and Caitlyn, like maybe you should just not go Kai'Sa. Any thinkers? Yeah, I'm down to put Draven in. There are some good Draven players at this tournament. I know that I kind of spent a lot of my player tier list kind of like bashing Jackie Love a bit, but Jackie Love is a fantastic Draven player. Hans is comfortable on Draven. There have even been some stretches of time where I remember like Guma playing a good Draven. So there are definitely Draven players at this tournament. Ooh, Doggo was a Draven player. Oh, I forgot about this. Doggo was a Draven player too. Yeah, we have a lot of Draven players at this tournament. Maybe we'll see some Draven. I'll think about it. If I end up coming to the conclusion that lane stomper supports are back on the menu, I'll move Draven up. So we'll think about that once I go through all the patches. Jax changes, base HP down, mega ult buff. Yes, these are definitely going to be big changes for Jax. I'm going to throw Jax all the way up to like here for now. Jinx, bonus range up by 20 at rank 1, so this helps her lane phase out. That's very good for her. Damage up by 20 on the flame chompers. That's like this is like a whatever change. This one might actually matter because it makes it easier for her to get through early lane. I still don't think you can pick her without getting into like late fearless. LeBlanc changes. All right, here's the big one. LeBlanc. Okay, so let me start out by saying this. Heading into MSI, LeBlanc received a small buff. It was a 5% AP buff, and even just that buff, we saw some people trying her out, saw some people experimenting. These changes are adding another 15% AP. So from the start of the year to now, she has received 20% AP ratio. That is not like a nothing change. This could be a very meaningful change. I tried out LeBlanc a little bit. It felt way better than I remembered it feeling before. You know, I think my personal opinion is that LeBlanc is going to be a very strong champion at this tournament. Whether teams will find success with it is another story, because LeBlanc is a very difficult champion to win with, but I think that she is going to be very strong. I'll put her in here for now. One of the benefits of LeBlanc is that she is easier to... You can't completely blind pick her, because when you blind pick LeBlanc, teams can respond with stuff like Lissandra or Malzahar. Speaking of which, where do I have Malzahar? I think we can add Malzahar into like might be picked. But it's like you can't blind pick a LeBlanc because you could run into something like an Aftershock Lissandra. People might not remember this, but back when LeBlanc was running around in pro play, the traditional counter was you would go Aftershock Lissandra and you could win pretty much every trade. I don't know if giving LeBlanc all of these buffs will be enough that she can just out-trade Aftershock Lissandra, which could be important. I'm also imagining that LeBlanc will probably struggle into a champion like Annie, just because Annie has a point-and-click stun. Maybe she will struggle in late game against stuff like a Cassio. I'm just trying to think of like what people could pick to fight against LeBlanc. But the point I'm trying to say is that for the most part, LeBlanc is easier to pick than a champion like Akali or a champion like Sylas, because unlike those champions, LeBlanc's advantage is that she is a ranged champion, so she can't be abused in the same way that some of the other melee mid lane AP champions can be. So yeah, I mean, like, I think that if you ever give room for LeBlanc to be picked, she's a very flexible champion and teams will want to pick her, and I think that these buffs are strong enough that we might see her. In fact, I think I mentioned this in my pick'ems. I think there's a chance that people completely overreact to the LeBlanc change and she just ends up being permabanned, which is why I briefly considered her for being on my most banned list for the pick'em. I think I'll hold off on that, but right now my opinion is that I think that LeBlanc will be very good. There's a chance that I might end up moving her higher. Lee Sin, armor growth down. Okay, so this is 0.4, so every 5 levels you're losing 2 attack damage, so you're losing like 6 attack damage. I'd say that's pretty meaningful since like his AD scaling is so good, so you're missing out on like 30 damage or so, just like baseline out of the kit. That could be meaningful. Sonic Wave, damage up by 5 flat, bonus, or not 5 flat, sorry, 5 more at all ranks, bonus AD down. Okay, so let's imagine a world where you have one item. What's the item that Lee Sin players are most likely to rush? Probably Sundered Sky, right? So you would get 45 bonus AD from that. So if you're losing 60% bonus AD ratio off of 45 AD, that is like roughly 30. It's a little bit less than 30, but we'll just round it up to 30. So we'll say that you are losing 30 damage and gaining back 25 on one item, and then every item past that, it gets worse. So this is like, essentially, this is always a nerf, is what this math is checking out to. So, okay, I mean, we have some good Lee Sin players at this tournament, but I'm down to move Lee Sin down a bit. You know, the more I think about it, the more I'm sold that this bombing change might make Sejuani and Skarner rise up. I'm going to move them up a little bit. Lilia, bonus damage on her R, flat damage up by 50, AP ratio up by 5, cooldown down. Okay, so cooldown down I don't think matters. The reason why I don't think this matters is because usually with Lilia in a pro game, you are ulting at objectives, and then maybe you can find a play to slip in an ult in between objectives if you want to go for like a side lane play or something. So her cooldown was already in a place where you were going to get optimal usage out of it no matter what. I don't think that teams are going to be casting her R more in pro games. The damage part could be nice. I could see some people leaning towards Lilia jungle. I'll throw it at the bottom for now. Again, same issue. AP junglers are struggling because AD mid laners are struggling, so we'll need some more stuff there. Mel, Bonus attack damage per spell, 24 to 75 based on level, 3% AP ratio to 24 to 99 plus 9% AP. Okay, so I feel... Okay, damage... Bonus damage on attack per spell. Couldn't this be a massive change? It doesn't Mel normally end up applying like 50 to 100 stacks of her passive in a team fight? Is that what this is saying? Is that every single one of those individual stacks at max level are getting 24 more damage and a 6% higher AP ratio? Because that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of damage. Maximum bonus damage on attack. Or is this saying her auto attack? Is this referring to her empowered auto attack after she casts a spell? I think that's what this is saying, right? That the auto attack that she casts after she casts a spell will deal this much damage. If that's what that means, I don't think this change means that much for pro play. I don't think this means too much. We could see some Mel. I think the Mel was already kind of like right on the edge of being playable. Where do I have her? Do I have her in rare? I do have her in rare. I remember Humanoid playing some games of it, I think was who it was. I think I'll leave her there, as long as I have her in there. Monster modifier down. Okay, Pantheon is getting compensation buffs, by the way, so we can't really do too much here, but yeah, for now, like just for the 25-19, not factoring in that he's getting compensation buffs next patch, we'll chuck him down a bit. We'll chuck him down a bit more. We'll chuck him down a bit more, and I'm gonna move Jarvan up too. I think I can move Jarvan to like this, maybe. Poppy. Q, Hammer Shock, max health, damage cap to minions and monsters, down. And then cooldown on interrupted channel up. Okay. This is a weird statement to me. She's nearing the top jungle spot in pro play, and we'd like to create more room for other junglers to get play. What pro game are these people watching? Poppy is not a super high prio jungler, I don't think. I think of Poppy more as a support, to be honest. Like, I think of, like, carry a Poppy support. But, like, the only jungler that really comes to mind for Poppy is, like, I don't know, Shadow, Wei. I can't even think of any other Poppy jungle players off the top of my head from this most recent split. Yeah, I don't really know what Riot's talking about there. Maybe I'll move Poppy down, like, one spot in flex. I don't think this will stop people from picking it. Seraphine. Oh, wait. This could be... I was mentioning earlier that when Ashe Prio goes up, Seraphine Prio goes up. I did not know that Seraphine was getting changes. Let's take a look. Mana growth up, HP growth up. High note, amplified damage at low HP now also affects monsters. Okay, yeah, sure. This will help for objectives. W surround sound. Healing up a lot. Oh, I do remember this change. It is, she has a better heal on her own and then a slightly worse heal when you're grouped up as 5. That's what it is. So this is a laning buff. This W is a laning buff. Holy fuck. Wait, Ashe Seraphine is just going to be broken, no? Wait, isn't Ashe Seraphine just going to be the strongest bot duo on the patch? I mean, like, I'm down. I think that Ashe Seraphine is really fun to watch. I'm going to move Seraphine, like, way up, actually. Yeah, I think that Seraphine is, like, a super oppressive support. So, sure. Yeah, we'll take that. Sivir is OP in regular... Okay, initial damage, 100% bonus AD to 85% bonus AD. So, she goes Essence Reaver first, and then... So, okay, you either go Essence Reaver first, and then Flicker Blade second, and then damage items, or you go... Or if you can afford a BF Sword early game, you go Yuntal first, and then IE second. So for the Yuntal IE build, this takes off some damage, but for the Essence Reaver Flicker Blades build, this does borderline nothing, to be honest, just because that build is so low AD anyway. Or low bonus AD anyway. I could see this moving her down. I would have thought that if you wanted to take her out of pro play, maybe you nerf her W a little bit. I'll move her down like a tiny, like one spot. Oh, by the way, I'm just gonna do this. Yoink that there. I think that the Seraphine buffs solidify Ashe being at top of bot laners for now. Syndra. Okay, so these are laning buffs. Health growth down, armor growth down. Q, Dark Sphere, damage up by 5 at rank 1 is the important part, and then a 5% AP ratio, and then Scatter the Weak down by 2. This is a big change to me. 5 more damage on a spell that has such a low cooldown. The main reason why Syndra fell out of pro play in the first place was because when they gave her that like little mini rework, they took away her early power and put it into her scaling. And then so teams did not like that, so they stopped picking her because it was harder for her to get prio early. This might change things. I would not be surprised if a small laning buff like this is enough to kind of rocket Syndra back in. That is kind of my belief, that Syndra will come back into the meta. So where do I have her? I have her here. I think I'll start out tame. I'll put her in like Victor tier. Items. Redemption. Yeah, so the redemption change I don't think will matter that much for the meta because like champions will go redemption less, but every champion was rushing redemption anyway. So all that's going to happen is that champions are like the tanks are going to go back to rushing Locket maybe. Maybe Nico always rushes like Rocket Belt now. Maybe some of these other support champions rush Redemption anyway. So I don't think that it will change much in the grand scheme of the support pool because everybody was going Redemption anyway. So whatever. And also this change isn't even that big, so maybe we'll still see it. Celestial Opposition, bug fix, Runes Unsealed Spellbook is getting nerfed again. So this is a nerf on top of a nerf it already had, I believe. Yeah, again, this is like a keystone that most champions are taking, so it won't really matter that much. Is this it for 2519? All right, let's move on to 2020 or 2520. Mid-patch updates. Azir got a hotfix adjustment, early game buff, and a late game nerf. Okay. Anivia cooldown on Q down by 1 second. This is really big. So I don't know. So I have a video on my second channel where it was give me your LoL esports hot takes, and one of the hot takes that somebody came in with was I think Anivia should be pick or ban, and my response to that. I had a few responses to that. I had multiple responses to it, but one of the things I said that I thought was limiting Anivia being picked was that I thought that her spell rotations were too long. So like her E is a spammable spell, but in order for her E to do meaningful damage, you have to hit them with your Q first. And I said that her Q was on too long of a cooldown, and so she would just get out traded by the other mages who have faster spell rotations like Orianna and Annie and even like Aurora and stuff. So I was saying that Nivea wouldn't be able to keep up in that regard. If she is getting a 1 second flat cooldown reduction on the Q, I think this is very good for her laning phase. I would not be surprised if we maybe see some Anivia. So that's like one of her main weaknesses that maybe she doesn't have anymore, so I'll throw her up in there for now. Azir, AP ratio up by 10. Recharge rate up by 2, but scales to the same. So right now we're still looking at like same scaling. And then also this was, okay, so it went from 40 to 60, and then it got hotfixed to 62.5. So a slight buff overall for that. I skipped past him, where is he? Damage to additional targets, 20% until level 8, and then plus 8% per level until you get to 100 at 18. So this is a nerf, but basically what I'm reading here is that the scaling is still fine. Scaling is still fine, which is the main reason why people pick him anyway. Shifting Sands, damage up by 10, AP ratio up by 20. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I thought that Azir got nerfed a little bit harder than he did. Maybe he's actually like fine to stay in third. Briar, maximum stat. I mean, this doesn't matter. Camille, armor growth down by 0.5. Tactical sweep down by 2 seconds at rank 1. This is a big change. Base damage up by 10. I think this is gonna help her. I think this is a good buff for her. We have some good Camille players at this tournament. Where is Camille? Here. Keen has been playing her a lot. Bin is very good at her. I could see Camille's prio being up. Something else to consider is that when Camille's prio goes, when Jax's prio goes up, Camille's prio goes down because Jax is a hard counter. So I think I'm going to be careful about how high I put Camille. Do I have Gnar too low? I think I'll move Gnar up a couple spots. Let's see. Fizz. Passive damage over time, 20 to 60 to 30 to 90, but minus 5% AP ratio, so this is a buff. Damage over time no longer affects structures. Okay. We did the math. Damage over time now displays total damage to a target. Okay, so that just doesn't matter. Active burst damage, 50 to 130 to 50 to 150. On-hit damage, 10 to 30 to 20 to 40 with, okay, so this is an early game buff, but 200 AP becomes a nerf. I guess the important changes are going to be the R. Let's see what's going on with the R, because I think that Fizz's biggest gateway to pro is whether his R can be used as like a disruption spell or not. Guppy damage, 80 to, okay, let's just look at the big one. 500 to 630, minus 30% AP ratio. So it is a buff before 400 AP, and then after 400 AP it starts getting... Okay, so if Fizz is ever going to be seen in pro play, it's going to be an ability haste centric build, not an AP centric build. And the way that it'll work is that Fizz is going to build enough damage to be able to one-shot like a marksman or something, but for the most part the focus will be in disruption, in spamming his R, because his R is his best kind of like pro play ability, because it can create a lot of space in fights, can do solid damage, provide some CC. So I think if we ever see Fizz, it'll be like that. I don't know if these changes will allow us to see Fizz. I don't think this is quite what we're looking for. I think we might end up seeing Fizz if some AP items get some random ability haste buffs. That might be enough to start seeing Fizz, something like that. But this type of change, where they're just impacting the damage on the spells, I don't think people in pro play will care. Q damage, up by 5 per rank, but minus 15% bonus AD ratio. So this is pretty much just a nerf. Secondary damage, up by 35 at max rank with a 25. Okay, so this is also basically just a nerf. Yeah, that's just a nerf. Katarina armor plus 4. Ooh, nah. Maybe this would matter more if AD mid laners are more prominent, but we're not seeing that. Malphite, base armor plus 3, ground slam buffed. Ground slam is a very spammable spell. It is one of his most important laning spells. And a base armor buff is nice. Maybe I'll put Malphite in rare. I could see it being used. Because like Jace got buffed, I think that maybe, you know, if we see too much Jace, maybe we see some Malphite counterpick, something like that. Orianna. Oh, also, like, okay, let me just, here, I can paint this picture. If Jace prio increases, and then people are picking more Ashe and Caitlyn and Draven, which are immobile marksmen, maybe Malphite sees more play, because Malphite ult would be very valuable in those games. Okay, let's see. Damage 70 to 270 to 70 to 230 plus 10% AP. So this is a buff at 400 AP, which pro players are not getting to, but it doesn't change her early game that much. I don't think this will matter that much. I'll knock her down a few pegs, but I don't think this will matter. I mean, like, Annie also got nerfed, right? So I almost want to move Cassio up. Like, I almost want to do something like this, but that feels a little bit optimistic. Maybe... Well, I mean, like, if Talia is still going to be the strongest mid laner, Orianna has a good matchup into Talia. I don't think this W change will change that. Maybe we're looking at something like this. Maybe we're looking at something like this. And moving on. Pantheon. Q, Comet Spear, monster damage modifier. Okay, so it was at 0.9. Now it is at 0.8. And that's the important one. Pantheon will bring, like, here. Okay. Pantheon is more useful. Like, but both Pantheon and Nocturne have similar advantages, but I think Pantheon is like a bit more useful early, so we'll give Pantheon the nod there. Vigar. Okay, so I already think that Vigar is strong. And what are they doing? They are buffing the AP ratio on his W. I mean, okay, listen. I'll say this, all right? See how I have Vigar not very high in the mid list and Ziggs not very high in the bot list? I think that Vigar Ziggs as a combo is one of the strongest combos that exists in late Fearless. I think if you get into a game 4 or 5 and you lock in Vigar Ziggs, that shit is broken. I'm telling you, that shit is broken. So, changes like this really help. You know, we'll just move him up like one spot. Volibear, AP ratio down by 5, AP ratio down by 10. What do we think? Does that hurt Skewmon too much? I'm gonna move Diana up, and I'll move Lilia up too. You know it's cooked for AP junglers when my bottom 6 junglers are all AP junglers. This is pretty telling of how I feel about the jungle meta right now, I think. Warwick, attack damage growth, attack speed growth. Okay, so basically any chance that Broken Blade was gonna bring out Warwick top is kind of gone now, is what I'm seeing from this. Yeah, I didn't even have Warwick in there. Wukong. Crushing Blow, bonus AD ratio down by 5. Warrior Trickster increased by 2 seconds at all rank. Clone damage down by 5%. And the compensation buff is that his Nimbus Strike gets 40 more damage at rank 5. Okay, so first of all, this doesn't even matter because you max Q on the champion. So these buffs don't come in. Like, okay, I'm just going to put it this way. I'm a Wukong main. Wukong is my best champion. I think these changes are like really painful. I think that Wukong is a lot weaker now. So we move Wukong down to... I think Wukong is still playable. I think Wukong is like still going to be a good setup champion. He still benefits from a lot of the mid laners in the meta, but you know, it is kind of unfortunate because I think that Wukong's best pairings are Orianna and Annie. Those two champions are both getting nerfed. Wukong got nerfed. The more that I'm saying it, maybe Wukong will be worse than I... You know what? We're going to do something a little bit silly here. My meta read could be off, but maybe I should have more confidence in myself because my MSI meta read was actually pretty good. Like I made some pretty crazy predictions for mid lane and bot lane, and a lot of them ended up working out. So here's what I'm going to say. I think I'm going to move Sejuani up, and I'm going to move Skarner up above both of these champions. Then I'm going to take Zac, and I'm going to move him straight up into the tier list. I'll put him maybe here. Then because these champions are stronger, I'm going to move Trundle up a couple of spots as well. So this is kind of how I'm feeling right now. And then we're going to say that because Redemption got nerfed, maybe Ivern goes down a bit. Well, okay, I'll settle for this for now. Maybe I'll make more changes with that later. System changes, top lane detection, lane detection. Okay, so basically, really weak laning champions are stuck laning for longer. So who does this impact? Who could be abused the most? Maybe Gnar goes up because tanks go down a little bit. I don't think Sion will suffer that much, but maybe maybe like Ornn would suffer a bit from that. Maybe Cassante suffers from this. We already have Cassante pretty low. I'm fine with that, with like leaving Cassante there. How about bot laners? I think that this change does hurt Kai'Sa. I will move. You know what? I think I'm gonna pull the trigger on some bot lane changes as well. Any bot laner who cannot fend for themselves in strong 2v2 matchups, I'm gonna knock down a peg. So Jhin is a champion who is very good in these types of matchups. Sivir is good at getting push. Corki is fine early. Varus is fine early. Caitlyn, I think, will be strong at this tournament. Yunara is going to be bad. Yunara's like got to find level 1, but for the most part, I think her early game is pretty bad. Lucian Prio, I think, will be pretty solid. Senna and Smolder and Yunara should all go down. I'm going to move Callista above them. I'm going to move Zeri above Yunara, but I think that Zeri will also suffer here. Ziggs Prio should go up. I think that Ziggs will be a stronger champion at this tournament. Xayah still functions more as a counter pick, but I'm down to move her up a bit. I think that Ezreal Prio goes up here. I think Ezreal Prio goes up a little. Jinx got some buffs, but I don't think they're like crazy buffs. Draven, I think will be fine this tournament, and we'll also give Misfortune a nod because Misfortune is very strong at getting mid prio and stuff, so she's the type of champion you might want to pick into a more oppressive lane. Here, we'll go there. Then thinking about supports, in a meta like this, Braum suffers, so we'll move Braum down, we'll move Alistar down, I'll move Bard up, we'll move Karma up. I think Rakan is like kind of fine in this type of meta actually, same, and Seraphine will move up as well. Renata I think will be pretty strong this tournament, but still very conditional based on what marksmen show up. So like if Ashe ends up not being as strong as I think she'll be, then Renata will suffer. I think Nautilus Prio goes down, but Leona Prio goes up, because I'm looking at a lot of these champions here, and a lot of these champions, like, okay, Ashe, Jhin, Caitlyn, Varus, Ziggs, Draven, Misfortune. Leona is good into all of these champions. I'll move Leona up a bit. Blitzcrank is also pretty good into some of these champions, so we'll give Blitzcrank a bump a few spots. I think Elise is a difficult champion, but strong. I will give Elise a bump in a few spots. I think Pyke will struggle at this tournament. I think Lulu will struggle, and I think Taric will struggle. Okay, that was a lot of changes. What else do I think? What other supports do I think could be playable? I think that Lux will be playable now. We'll give Lux a nod. Neela I don't think will be playable. I'm going to move Neela out completely. Do I think Lucian Nami is playable? Maybe Lucian Nami is playable. Shen I think is going to be out for support, but I think that we might see a couple people try it top. Thresh I'm going to move here. Thresh I think is like very bottom tier, but there are going to be some people who try to play it most likely. Vayne is absolutely not going to be playable, I don't think. I'm going to leave it here because I bet somebody's going to try to ego and pick it anyway, but I feel like Vayne is going to be terrible at this tournament. Oh, we need Kled in this tier list. I almost forgot. Kled is like Kled has some good matchups here. Kled has some pretty good matchups near the top, so we'll put Kled like here or something. No Samira, no Sona, nothing is telling me that we'll see a Xerath, Zillion, or Yuumi. All right, I think I'm going to settle for this so far. Let's keep going. Again, a lot of the changes that I just made are dependent, one, on like a slew of changes that I think will swing the game towards more lane dominant supports, and then also the fact that lane swap detection is being changed to 4 minutes, which means that lane stompers will flourish more, and then champions who rely on lane swaps will be a little bit worse. Is that it? Is that all of the changes? I think that's it. Okay, so let's take stock of this. Let's take a look at what we have here. Flex picks. I think that the Galio nerfs do not matter. I think you can still pick Galio mid or top. Top as an answer to Rumble, or mid lane just as an answer to like a bunch of things. Think that Galio support will not be a thing at this tournament. Tristana is a... Okay, so here's another big question. If so many of these AP junglers are playable, does that mean that we're going to see a rise in AD mid laners just as a result? Like we'll see more teams trying to pick AP junglers and then forcing AD mid laners to pair with them? But either way, I think Tristan is playable mid, and I think that she is playable as a... Okay, well, initially I thought that she was going to be playable bot as like a Kai'Sa counter pick, but now that I'm kind of looking at it, I feel like Tristana struggles in this meta, because against champions like this, I think Tristana's range is a bit too low early, so maybe she won't be as good bot as I'm thinking. Maybe I take her out of flex. I don't think we'll see Tristan. I mean, okay, so we might see Tristana bot in situations where bot laners really want some mobility. So like if Corki is out and Ezreal and Ziggs are out and Zeri is out and Zeri is out, we might see a team go for Tristana. I don't think that's a very realistic situation. Maybe I take Tristana out of flex and I move her into just mid lane. Maokai right now I have as a jungle support flex. When I see champions like this at the top of the jungle pool, I think that Maokai support will struggle. I'm going to move Maokai out of flex as well and only put him in jungle. We'll leave Olaf in flex, but that's pretty unlikely. Ooh, you know what? When we see champions like this, you know what other champion randomly becomes stronger is Gangplank, and we have some good Gangplank players at this tournament. Bin is at this tournament, Driver, Bwippo, these are players who are willing to pick Gangplank. I could see Gangplank maybe coming through a bit. Set is a counter pick to Yorick, so we might see that a little bit. I'll put Gangplank like here, and for Maokai, we'll move him maybe like there. All right, let's think some more about this. Is Qiyana really this strong? So if we're looking at pushing lanes, we want junglers who can be active early. So to me, that is Qiyana, Jarvan, Xin Zhao. I'm going to leave Vi near the top because I think that Vi loves being with LeBlanc and Ahri. LeBlanc and Ahri both got buffed, so Vi's going to be pretty happy there. In a world like that, I think that Pantheon is still pretty solid. I think the Lee Sin nerfs really hurt. I don't know if I want to move him up. In a world like this, I think that champions like Nidalee and Diana are happier as well. So maybe we do something like Zac up. Maybe we go like Zac up, Kindred up, Nidalee up, Viego down. Maybe something like this. Mid laners, I still think Azir will be fine. I think Cassia will be pretty disgusting at this tournament. I think Cassia will be disgusting. I think LeBlanc will also be disgusting, but we'll need specific champions to either be banned or be already picked. Same kind of deal with Ahri. I do like the Ahri buffs. I think the Aurora nerfs are pretty big. Maybe even we can move like Akali up. Let me think about ultimates. So what kind of ultimates could a Sylas steal? So Xin Zhao ultimate is pretty good for Sylas. He really likes Alistar ultimate, but I think Alistar prio goes down. In terms of mid laners that he can match, I don't think that Sylas has great matchups into a lot of these champions. He's got fine matchup into Akali and Ahri. I don't know, maybe Sylas prio goes down. Maybe with like Maokai, Zac, and some AP options, maybe we see some Yone prio. I'll move Yone up a little bit. Syndra, the changes, I think that Syndra will be pickable. How good do I think Syndra will be? I'm not going to put all my eggs in the Syndra basket. I think we'll see her more, but we'll see her more on like a Victor level. I don't think she's going to become like a top tier control mage or anything. Veigar, I think, is good. Swain is more of a counter pick. Hui, I think, will be playable, but not universally good. Tristana, definitely, I need to move up a bit. Tristana, I will put like here. Yasuo, I'm kind of just banking on Yasuo being playable if some team wants to try out Diana, like the Yasuo-Diana combo is sometimes good. Anivia, Vel'Koz, Vex. I mean, Vel'Koz has some good matchups here. I'm going to move Vel'Koz up a little bit. I think that Vel'Koz is a pickable champion. I don't know if anybody's going to do it, but I think Vel'Koz is playable at this tournament. Bot lanes, I might have Sivir too high, but I do believe for the most part that if you pair Sivir with a strong enough support, like Sivir's pretty good at pushing waves, so I think that she should be fine, and I don't think her nerfs were that impactful. So right now I'm kind of thinking Ashe strongest, and then because Ashe is the strongest, that pushes up Renata and Seraphine and Prio. Seraphine also got buffs. I think that Seraphine is a lot stronger in 2v2 now, so I think like Ashe Seraphine is going to be a monster combo this tournament. Jhin is a bot laner who I'm going to have up here because he's so good at neutralizing lanes. So in metas where you're looking for strong lanes, Jhin is kind of a great safety pick that you can go if you want to put resources somewhere else on the map. I think this is going to look good for Caitlyn, and then because Caitlyn is here, that will increase prio for some champions. So like Caitlyn Nico, Caitlyn Karma, Caitlyn Lux. I have Lux here that I added just because Caitlyn is there. Something else that I think is good is actually Caitlyn Morgana. So I'm going to move Morgana into flex. I'm going to put her above Olaf. I think Morgana might make an appearance in support like once or twice. And she might make an appearance in jungle once or twice, and that's enough for me to put her on this list. I think that Leona will be good because there are a lot of immobile champions up here. So there's a lot of immobile marksmen, a lot of immobile mid laners, so Leona's ultimate is very good in champions like that. I think Alistar will be difficult to play, but fine. Blitzcrank will be good for the same reason Leona is good. And also we have some good Blitzcrank players at the tournament. I'm going to put Lux above Pyke. Okay, so let's talk about some of these rare picks. So first, overall, this is kind of what I think is going to happen with the meta. The biggest thing that happened in the meta is that we've gotten some very drastic bot lane changes. So I think that the biggest meta shift will be in what bot laners are playable. Oh, by the way, it's 6:24 in the morning. I need to post that video. Hold up. Video, public, monetization, check. What the fuck is this spread? Okay. We'll get rid of this one and this one. I guess this video is only gonna have 2 ads. Okay, sure, whatever. All right, rejoice, people. You only get 2 ads for this video. And let me check. Title, tags, everything looks good. Visibility, publish. There we go. That's that. And then let me just make an announcement about that on the Discord. So new videos. And back to this. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, so I think that the biggest change in the meta right now, heading into Worlds, is that we're going to see a shift in marksman to lane dominant marksman. So we're going to see a meta more similar to what we saw like for Split 2 is kind of the direction that I'm viewing this is going to go in. So because of that, you know what? I think that we're going to make some more support changes here too, because Nico has a bad matchup into Karma and Seraphine. So I'm going to move Nico back. Actually, I'm going to move Nico above Seraphine because I think that Nico is... Okay, so Nico, she like has bad matchups into some of these other champions that are at the top, but I also think she's more flexible. And Bard at the top feels weird. I don't think this is true. Shit. Okay, at the risk of looking... Okay, you know what? I'm going to put Nico still in front just because she's the most flexible. But then okay. I'm just going to stick with this. I feel like there's a total chance this is a complete whiff. But anyways, that's my read. Prio bot lanes, stable mid laner who can get push. And then because we're going to have pushing lanes, we're going to want junglers who are more active early, which is why I have Kiana, Jarvan, Xin Zhao in front, because those are active junglers. Sejuani and Skarner are both active early, and they're getting benefits from the Balmy Cinders buff. Maybe Skarner's not as much, because Skarner's more of a Heartsteel rusher, but, you know, who knows. I still want to buff tank junglers a little bit. Then, because of the tank junglers I buffed up, I also want to put Trundle in front, because Trundle's a good answer into those champions. Vi, overall, I think doesn't really match what my read of this meta is going to be. She doesn't match it that well, but she also didn't get nerfed, and she was a strong jungler before, so I'm leaving her up. Wukong and Pantheon are both going to get pushed back. I think that Wukong will still be playable, but it doesn't really match the theme of the meta that I'm imagining in my head, and his nerf was pretty big. Pantheon nerf was also pretty big, but he does match the picture of the meta that I have in my head, so I think Pantheon will be better than Wukong. And then for top laners, I mean, like, top laners are still kind of top laners. Just like, you know, win your matchup, be useful later. So, yeah, this is my read for now. And then we can talk about some of these rare picks. So, rare picks. Aesol. When do you pick Aesol? I think that Aesol, we've seen Aesol be a reasonable answer into Azir in the past. But I don't think that... First of all, I don't really think it's that good of an answer. And second of all, I think Aesol will struggle at this tournament. But we do have some Aesol players at this tournament. So... Hongq and Maple like playing Aesol, and I could be misremembering, but I feel like I remember JoJo playing Aesol like in past seasons. Maybe I'm completely making that up, but I feel like I remember that. Chovy, there was also a portion of time where Chovy was like the best Aesol player in the world. Like he was just really good at stacking on Aesol, so I think that there's a chance we see Aesol, but it's very low. Mundo is like basically just here for G2. It's like, okay, do Skewmon or BB want to play it? If they want to play it, then sure. I don't know if we're going to see Janna. Maybe we'll see Janna as like a super situational thing. There are some mid laners at this tournament who like Kassadin, so we might see some Kassadin. The Singed is here basically just for Bwipo. The Soraka's here essentially only if somebody wants to try Kalista Soraka in like a game 5 or something. Twitch I think I'm going to drop out completely because I don't think Twitch can thrive in this type of meta here. Vayne I would drop out completely, but there are some Vayne players at this tournament, so I feel like somebody might ego it anyway. Tryndamere is kind of like an inspired thing. It's like, will Inspired play Tryndamere jungle? Probably not, but, you know, he could play it. Udyr is like, I think there's a couple of players at this tournament who might try Udyr top, but I don't think it will go very well for them. Fiddlesticks, we might see somebody try Fiddlesticks. Kha'Zix is mostly just here as a Xin Zhao answer. There are a few players this season who have experimented with Talon. I don't think that Talon is that great because he lacks a little bit of setup, but people might try Talon. I think that Tahm Kench will struggle in this meta, but if we get into late Fearless, you might see some teams want to try like Jinx TK or Senna TK or something. Rek'Sai I should move into the actual tier list. I think that Rek'Sai top is not as useful as people think it is, but is playable. So I'm going to put Rek'Sai top in there. The Malzahar pick is basically here only for LeBlanc and Ahri and for nothing else. So it's if the LeBlanc and Ari buffs are strong enough that they end up going crazy, we might see, and if people don't want to go Lissandra, we might see some Malzahar. And then the Malphite read is that because we have a lot of immobile bot laners here and a lot of immobile mid laners here, and because Jace got buffed, we might see some games where people try some Malphite because Malphite got buffed. But I'm not really expecting it. So yeah, the set is here as a Yorick counter pick. The Shen is kind of just for driver. The Garen is a read that I have. I think that Garen might be playable because Jax got buffed and because people are still picking Cassante, and Garen has a good matchup into Jax and Cassante. So this could be something that we end up seeing. The Gangplank is here for the same reason as the Malphite, really. It's the immobile mid laners and bot laners. We might see some teams try to go Gangplank. Camille, I think, I mean, like, Keen's probably going to pick it multiple times. I don't think that Camille's very good, but I think that the buffs are good for her. I think that it hurts Camille a little bit, that the lane swap changes, because there are so many counters to her. Like, Jax got buffed, which is bad for Camille. You know, I don't think Camille is like a good matchup into Renekton. I don't think that she has a good matchup into Sion. Yeah, not a big Camille believer here. I'm just going to let this settle. You know, this is going to be my tier list. There's a few things that I would want to change in my head. Like my brain keeps on telling me that I want to put Karma and Seraphine first, but it's like, come on, there's no way that's happening, right? But if you were going to move Karma and Seraphine up, the argument would be that Nico has a bad matchup into both, and Bard at first looks really fucking weird. So that would be all I could say about that. This read could be totally off. This is my read. This is what I'll look for teams to pick in Worlds 2025. That's it for this video. I've got nothing else for you. My next videos will be my daily Worlds recaps. So in those videos, we go over the games that happened that day, and then I make my predictions for the games on the next day. I guess I should make my T1 versus IG prediction right now. I'm going to predict T1 3-0 IG. I think that there's a chance IG can take a game, but even if they do, I think it'll be a really underwhelming victory. And either way, we'll finish the series thinking that T1 is just a way better team. So my official prediction will be T1 3-0. Patreon shoutouts. I have a Patreon. We have a lot of bonus content on there. So if I write a script for a video in the future after this World Championship, then that script will be up there as soon as I finish it. So that's a sneak peek. If you subscribe with the $10 tier, I'll draw you a custom Poro and I'll put it on the end card that you can see on the screen right now. I will also upload a unedited recording of all of my drawing sessions to the Patreon so you can watch me draw your Poro or other people's Poros. I have a Worlds 2022 Grand Finals rewatch. That's a 5-hour video that's up there that will turn into a video eventually. But in that video, I kind of break down like what did the meta look like back then? What do teams do now that they didn't do back then? In hindsight, how did all of the players actually look? Who was the real MVP of that series? Who was maybe worse than people remember? That type of stuff. So if any of that interests you, go check out the Patreon. Link will be in the description. I have nothing else for you for this one. I'll see you all for the next video. Bye.